What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it?
They don't get no peace.
If we don't get no justice,
They don't get no peace.
who the streets?
Our streets.
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 I spoke at another protest, and I spoke about something that I haven't heard as much. Growing up, my parents literally had to teach me how to react when I got pulled over. I don't know how many other races, ethnicities, anybody else got to be taught that, but we do. I'm tired of telling my little sisters at the age of 8, 9, 10, 5, 6, 7 what to do when we get pulled over. I'm tired of them freaking out when there's a cop behind us and we ain't even do nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's not right.
I was pulled over 10 times in the city, and I was told by the Plymouth police that my tailgate was down, my truck was reported stolen, I was hanging out the window, my tint was too dark, which I had no tint on my truck, and then it actually took the action step that my father had to take, and I think this is good context because I was adopted into a white family and my father's a doctor. So it was my dad going to the police commander of Plymouth and saying, hey, there's an issue. I bought my son's truck. He keeps getting pulled over. And then when he did that, I stopped getting pulled over.
My car was in my girlfriend's name. She's black. I'm white. I've driven down 36th Avenue to Cub Foods and back 100 times, and I've been pulled over 10 times minimum. Wow. Because the car is in her name, and she's black. Yes. I've not gotten a ticket once. They walk up to the car, and they say, oh, I'm sorry, have a nice day. What the fuck is that? That's racism. That's profiling. That's bullshit. That's these guys. It's unacceptable. It happens all the time. Robbinsdale police needs to be held accountable.
For white folks, especially in the suburbs, it's the time for you not to carve out a space or say where folks of color can be. It's the time for you to follow folks of color and figure out where they want to be. It's the time for black folks to carve out their own space and for white folks to support that. And part of that is massively defunding and transforming what this looks like. We're not saying abolish the police, at least I'm not saying it. I'm not saying do away with them and let's have anarchy. It's the idea that historically slave catchers, they come from slave catchers. That was their first job. That's where the police come from in the US. Police around the country, police around the world come from different backgrounds and different origins. Some of them are very honorable. However, for the US to come from runaway slave catchers, you can imagine that tree is never going to be something that's fruitful. It's only going to serve white communities. It's only going to serve white people. And so when we talk about cursing or burning buildings, you have to understand that is an absolute byproduct of being pushed into a corner and poked on your forehead and prodded and tortured and mutilated and brutalized for centuries. For centuries.
It's the same thing over and over and over. If you listen to the family stories, that they're being profiled and pulled over all these times before they're actually murdered. And so, for my son's father in particular, I know that a week before he was murdered, they pulled him over. Now, his stepdad, who was all white, my son's father was biracial, so his mother is white. His stepfather, who's all white, would drive that exact same car in the exact same area and would never get pulled over. As soon as Justin would get in that car and drive in the same area, he would get pulled over time after time going to college, because he was in college at the time that he was murdered. There is over 429 murders that have been reported to Communities United Against Police Brutality here in the state of Minnesota alone in the last 20 years. That means it's 429 families out here literally suffering, but it's more than that. That's only reported. I have families that have come and talked to me that is not on that list of the 429. So this is what's going on here in the state of Minnesota. And when we seen George Floyd get murdered with our own eyes, they still tried to cover it up. So imagine what's going on outside of the cameras. Imagine what's going on for the videos such as my own video that they got to and edited. It shows the police catch Justin and then it goes blank. Imagine all of our stories that they covered up. This is what's going on here alone in the state of Minnesota. There's only one officer here in this state that have been convicted of killing a civilian in history, and that is a minority man that killed a white woman. Pick a side. And I'm not talking about a side of white and black. I'm not talking about a side of white versus black. I'm not talking about a side of political versus community. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about picking a side over right versus wrong. Right versus wrong. Right versus wrong.
If we don't get no justice,
We don't get no peace.
if we don't get no justice,
We don't get no peace.
say no cops, no KKK, no racist USA. No cops, no KKK, no racist USA.
23 years ago, when my son got shot, they pretty much silenced people. They silenced us to the point people were afraid to even say what happened. And those times, within them years, I suffered so bad. My heart was broken. I couldn't get no one to tell me what happened. But I do know that my dad died months later because of a broken heart. They actually pulled a gun on my father and told him to get back in the apartment building. This officer murdered my child, and I want justice. But I've been working with Shatira Garraway for this family, supporting families. She brought me on board. I'm here to stay because the women are here in unity, and we're fighting for justice.
They shot my son in both hands, just like this. That's why I knew they was up. Both hands right in the center. Shot him in the back of the head. They shot him all over. He had so many buckshots from here all the way down from that shotgun. He got bullets in his legs, in his private area, and just everywhere, under his feet. That's when I knew he was down. He got bullets under his feet in the center, both feet. I tell you something, St. Paul, you some dirty motherfuckers. Tell you, I've never in my life seen no one killed like that. And it traumatized my family. My other two children can't even come out here and speak. They're so traumatized. They're so hurt. We will never get over this. St. Paul won't either, though. St. Paul, you will never stop seeing Jaffrey's face or hear his name. I'm not gonna let you. I'm gonna see to justice. I'm gonna see to justice is served to my child. I won't stop until it happens.
I meant to preface my speech with, because there are a lot of new people here, I want you to understand that when you come to these, people are going to speak angry. They're going to say things about white folks this or, whatever. If you're here, they ain't talking to you. Okay? What they are talking to is all these cameras, all these phones, and you should have them out too, because I know you know some racist people. Everyone does. I know some racist people. Everyone knows some racist people, and you haven't unfriended them all. So they should be watching you right now. They should be knowing that you're here. They should be bringing up, why are you there? And then you should be saying, why weren't you? But we need to remember something. Our lack of melanin should also be our lack of opinion when it comes to black and brown people protesting how their loved ones are murdered.
Every time we witness the murder of a person of color, it is the scene of the cracking of the whip, saying you better stay in line, expletive, or this will happen to you. All the while we fear for our children, being raised in a society where politicians can make false promises for votes and photo ops. The people sworn to protect and serve violate their oaths, all at the expense of our bodies and our blood.
everything that you guys have been saying, everything these families have been saying about unifying, it's becoming so prevalent. And not only do we need to be unifying as families and communities and within our own cities and states, this is a national crisis, y'all. We need to be unifying with other states as well, other cities and other states, because if it's a national crisis, the nation needs to show up, and the nation needs to show up together and understand what's going on in every different city.
We have the duty to fight for our freedom. We have the duty to win. We must love and support one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains. We have the duty to fight for our freedom. We have the duty to win. We must love and support one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains.